In this video, I'm going to talk about how to use groups in Moodle discussion forums so that you can have one forum activity, but within that forum activity, you can have students interacting with each other in smaller groups so that it feels for the students like they're having a smaller, more intimate, and perhaps more detailed conversation. But for you as the instructor, you're only managing one forum activity. I want to start by defining what groups and groupings are in Moodle and then show you how to set those up. A group in Moodle is what you think of as a group in your classroom. A group is a specific collection of students, so a smaller subset of students from that larger class. You can have multiple groups in a Moodle course, really as many as you want, and you can have those groups created randomly, or you can assign students to groups intentionally. A grouping in Moodle is a group of groups. So it's a collection of groups in Moodle, and it's a way to organize those groups. So for example, if you have paper 1 and paper 2, you might have students doing peer review in different configurations, so different groups for paper 1 and paper 2. And in Moodle, you want a way to organize those groups. So you can group them by the groups by assignment. So there's paper 1 grouping, which has the groups of students working together for paper 1. And then later in the semester, when you have paper 2, you'll use a grouping for paper 2, which will group those groups together. So I'm here in my demo course, and I'm going to show you how to navigate to the groups section. So I'm going to click on the course management icon and then click on groups. So this course currently has no groups, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by creating my group. So I'm going to pretend that this is for my research paper assignment, which I'll pretend is a big assignment in the course, and I'm going to create a group. You can note that you can also auto-create groups, which will create the groups randomly for you. You can then always go and edit them if you didn't like the random configuration. You can also import groups from a spreadsheet. But I'm just going to create the groups right here in Moodle, which usually if you have a relatively small class is quite manageable. So I'm going to call this Research Paper 1 Group A. I'm going to highlight that, copy it, and I'm going to save changes. So I'm creating the shell of the group right now, and then we're going to add users to it. And then I'm going to create a group again. I copied the name of it because I just want to change this to group B. So this will be research paper 1 group B. I'm going to use 2 groups for this and save changes. Okay, so I have my 2 groups created, but you'll see the 0. That means that there are currently 0 users in that group. I'm going to click on the group, and then over here on the right-hand column, I'm going to click Add Remove Users. So this will show you all of the users enrolled in the course. I'm going to choose these 2 students. What I did right there was I clicked and then I clicked the control button on my keyboard and then clicked a second one, and that lets you select multiple users in your list. And I'm going to click add. And then back to groups. You'll see that now there's 2. There are 2 users enrolled in that group. I'll go to group B, add remove users, and I'm going to choose my other 2 demo students that are enrolled in this course, and I'm going to put them into group B. You don't need to put an instructor in a group because instructors can see everything in a Moodle course. So I now have my 2 groups, and you'll see that when I click on them, it will then show me what users, what students are enrolled in the group over on the right-hand side. So I have my groups, and now I'm going to put those groups into a grouping. A grouping is a way to organize your groups in Moodle. So I created my grouping, and this is going to be for research paper 1. And so that's sort of the big bucket that these 2 groups will belong to. I'm going to save changes, and then I'm going to click on this little person icon, which is going to allow me to then put those groups into that grouping. So the grouping again is a group of groups. It's a way to organize this in Moodle, and it's really important if you're going to be using groups quite a bit throughout your course. It will just help you keep that organized. So I can now see that I have a grouping, research paper 1, that has those 2 groups in it, group A and group B. And then of course within those groups, I have those specific students assigned to the groups. Now next I'm going to show you how to apply this to a forum activity so that students are only seeing the content and interacting with members of their group. But for you as an instructor, you have only one activity to manage. Now we're moving on to using these groups in our Moodle discussion forum. This is really helpful because I'm sure that if you've used forums before and you've had a lot of students participating in that forum, which is often appropriate, sometimes you can see that the conversation gets stale, or maybe students don't know what to contribute, or maybe they feel shy about interacting with a big group of people. For something like an introduction forum in your course, you would usually not want to use groups. Usually you want to have students introducing themselves to the class, to each other, and having that kind of big and lively introduction. But often you want to have students working in smaller groups. For example, maybe they're giving each other feedback or doing some peer review. And that's where you only want them to be seeing content and interacting with their smaller group so that they feel like they can have that sometimes deeper and more intimate conversation with one another. So I'm going to show you how to configure that in Moodle so that you as the instructor are managing one forum space rather than having, for example, 5 forums if you want to have 5 groups. That's not necessary. And that will actually cause problems in your gradebook. That will cause a lot of disruption later on. So it's much better for you to have one forum activity, but then the students to be functioning in groups within that forum activity. And I'll show you that in Moodle now, how we'll set that up. So I'm back in my Moodle demo course, and I'm going to now add the forum activity. I'm turning editing on, then I'm going to click add an activity or resource, and I'm going to choose forum. So what I am assuming here is that I want to have a forum activity, one forum activity, where within it students are only seeing activity of other students in their group. So they're having that small group experience in the larger Moodle class. So example, separate groups forum. That's what I'm going to call that. So in the description, you would, put your forum prompt as usual. You probably want to indicate to students, that this is a group forum. You'll only be able to see the posts from others in your group, etc. I'm not going to go over all forum settings in this video. But what I do want to draw your attention to is that to use separate groups in forums, we can't use a single simple discussion. Separate groups does not work with single simple discussions. So keep this as probably standard forum for general use. So I'm going to save that, keep that as my forum type. That's the default. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these settings. I do want to just tell Moodle that this is graded. But what I want to draw your attention to are these here, the common module settings. Common module settings in Moodle are a way that you can show content or hide content to students, but also importantly, common module settings are where all group settings live in Moodle. So I have my group mode, and I'm going to choose separate groups. Note that there's also visible groups, which means that students are in groups, however, they can see the activity in the other groups. But for this, I want to have separate groups. So I'm going to choose separate groups. As soon as I do that, I have this new field for grouping, which I previously set up, and you would want to do that pre-set up also before you create the activity. And I'm going to choose my research paper 1 grouping, which has those 2 groups, group A and group B within it. So I have the grouping there. I'm going to click Save and Display, or Save and Return to Course. And next I'm going to show you what this will look like from the student perspective so that you can see that it is functioning as separate groups within this one forum activity. Okay, so in our demo course, we have our forum activity created and groupings assigned, and we're using separate groups. I am currently in my instructor account, And what I want to do is just click on participants to just show you what groups the test students are in. So I'm going to use demo student, who is in group A, and then test student 3, which is in group B. So I just wanted to show you that, and also to point out that you can see this group information when you look at your participants list. All right, so I'm using private browsing, a private browser tab. So when I pull this up, I'm currently logged in as the demo student, and demo student is enrolled as a student in the class and is in group A. So demo student is going to go into the forum. Demo student reads the prompt, adds a new discussion topic, demo student group A post. Obviously they would be naming their post something meaningful there. Demo student makes their post, and when we look at the forum as demo student, we can see that their post is there. When we go into our instructor account, you can of course see that the post is there. Now what I'm going to do is show you test student 3. So I'm actually in a different browser. I'm in Chrome right now so that I can log into multiple student accounts. I'm logged in as test student 3, also a student in the course. This student is enrolled in group B for this activity. I'm going to click on that forum again. And you'll see that this student does not see demo student's post at all. And that's because we're using separate groups and this student is in a separate group. So I'm going to add a new discussion topic as test student 3, who is in group B. I'm adding my post, posting to the forum. And you'll see that me as test student 3, I can see only this one post, only my own post. I don't see the post from demo student. Now, as the instructor in the course, when I go to that forum, so I'm back in my instructor account, when I go into that forum, I can see everything. And I'll show you that I can also filter between those groups. So here I am. I can see both of those posts are there. And then if you see right here where it says the separate groups, I can also filter. So if I only wanted to look at activity from group A, I could filter by just group A. But make sure you go back to all participants, or else you could be missing some posts from the other groups. So you probably want to just keep this on all participants, but you can filter by group if that's an easier way for you to find things or respond to students. So I hope that was helpful in showing you the way that you can create one forum activity. So for example, in my grade book, and when I go to grade this forum, I only have one activity to grade. I don't have two separate forums for those two groups. So that's a huge advantage, I think, to doing this. And if you have any questions, always let us know. You can reach us at moodlehelp@berkshirecc.edu.